a Noble Media Group member.
The world is very different now, for man holds in his mortal hands the power to abolish all forms of human poverty and all forms of human life.
6,000 years ago, man invented the wheel. 5,000 years later, he invented the printing press. 460 years later, he would fly. 70 years later, he would step on the moon. And 8 years later, he would send a spacecraft beyond our solar system. Today, we have computers which can think for themselves and robots that can dance. Properly utilized, today's technologies can bring an end to poverty, hunger, and even the need to work, or to make bombs that will end all life on Earth. Will we destroy ourselves or come together?
It is now 85 seconds to midnight. This is the closest the world has ever been to midnight.
Join Joe Carvin as he explores these questions, because mankind is on the hinge of history. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Hinge of History. It's Brian Mistro. I'm here with Joe Carvin, and Joe, I got to tell you, I'm really looking forward to these shows. It's informative. We learn a lot, talk about some controversial things, but at the same time, we kind of laugh it up and have fun with each other. So, thanks everybody for joining us. I hope you're having as much fun with it as Joe and I are. Or am. And I don't know where you're watching this from, if you're watching it on Facebook or YouTube or X or whatever, but let us know what you think. Let us know if you're having a little fun with this too. So anyways, Joe, welcome, my friend.
Thank you so much, Brian. Good to be with you again. Yes, I'm really enjoying having this show. I can't thank you enough. And today we're going to really, if you will, demonstrate the rationale for the name of this show. Living at the Hinge of History.
Okay.
One of my favorite, if not my favorite, futurist is this guy named Demis Hassabis. He's a Brit. I got to say, I'll enjoy the Brits because I think they have an interesting global perspective. He was a chess champion. He went to Cambridge, if I remember correctly, but he finished high school too early, so he had to wait a year and up a video company, made a lot of money, then went to Cambridge, took the money after Cambridge and decided to study the brain, always with the idea of understanding general intelligence, artificial intelligence. He then set up his company, sold it to Google for $500 million at the time. Google DeepMind is what he created. He was basically trying to create the NASA of AI. And he's doing it 10 years ago before anybody was paying attention. So he really built up the NASA. And it really is the cutting edge entity in artificial intelligence. If you remember, they created AlphaGo and beated the Go champion. Remember, Go is an Asian game.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Far more complex than chess. And again, for all of you who are looking for something to say at cocktail parties and sound interesting, and the second or third game, the AlphaGo, the AI game, the AI created move 37. And in the 2,000 years of Go, nobody had made this move before. And everybody thought it was a huge mistake and a blunder by the AI. In fact, it turned out to be pure genius. And from there, they took AlphaGo and created AlphaFold, which, again, I don't know, you're the biologist that understands, but basically they learn how to fold proteins. So with the help of AlphaFold, we've now been able to fold 2 million proteins versus 170,000 proteins been folded in the previous 60 years. And ultimately, he won the Nobel Prize for that. In addition, he's now been knighted. Of course, we got to find something in the United States, Brian. I'd love to have Lord Brian and Lord Joe. We could talk about that.
I will tell you, I get a whole lot of good Lord Brian, but I never just the Lord part of it. So
exactly. Yeah, I'm actually of Irish descent, but I was never Carvin. You got a lot of Carvin, but But today, the reason why today I give that long introduction, last week, Sam Altman, Dario, they all publish blogs and essays. This is really the first time Demis Hassabis has published an essay. And I think it's really profound. So I'm going to read from it a fair amount because I think it really places us at the hinge of history.
The hinge of history.
All right. So basically, he wrote this article, A Framework for Frontier AI and the Dawning of a New Age.
And what was the date? What was the date of this one, Joe? Was this
July 14th, 2026.
Wow.
My son's birthday. My
Wow.
son's birthday.
Okay.
So a couple of weeks ago, I guess. So he writes, this is a pivotal moment in human history. Artificial general intelligence, AGI, is a system that exhibits all the cognitive abilities that the brain has and is probably only a few short years away. Now, again, I'm going to do a better explanation of AGI. Again, we've talked about this last session. My AGI, your AGI is infinitely smarter in the traditional sense of word than you and I.
Right.
And they talk about artificial general intelligence when it's as smart as a human, not as smart, and when it's as competent as a human being, where it can begin to strategize, where it can become autonomous, where it can begin to think without a prompt.
Right.
So AGI without a prompt is of just a few years away. And again, I.J. Good said in 1965, as soon as you create an ultra-intelligent machine that can self-replicate, that's the last machine human beings will ever need to invent. And then we'll get to artificial superintelligence. And we heard from Elon yesterday that artificial superintelligence is only 5 years away.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, in fact, Demis goes on to say, when we look back on this time in the decades to come, I think we will realize that we're standing in the foothills of the singularity, nothing less than the dawning of a new age for humanity. Now, again, we've been talking about singularity, correct?
That's right. Yep.
And just for our audience, again, I'm going to read the technological singularity refers to a hypothetical future point beyond which we can't see.
Mm-hmm.
When technological growth becomes so rapid and profound that it fundamentally transforms human civilization in ways we cannot predict or comprehend from our current vantage point. Basically, it's an event horizon. It's a term followed from physics. You think of a black hole, we don't know what happens once you go into that black hole. And so ultimately, the singularity is a time of infinite change beyond which we can't see what's happening. And again, as we've talked about in the past, this singularity has been predicted by polymaths for 75 years, but now we're on the precipice. I'm sorry, I'll use Demis's words. We're ultimately in the foothills of the singularity, right? So we're basically, as he says, we're living at a time of breakneck speed. So he basically goes on to say the magnitude of this technology's impact will be unprecedented. And we've talked about this again. One of his quotes is perhaps 10 times the pace of the Industrial Revolution at 10 times the speed. In fact, I've been doing some work on this. If you lost your job in 1820, you had several decades, right, before the Industrial Revolution would change so fast. People had time to change,
Right. Right.
and to adapt to the change. Today, there's you have months, if that.
That's right.
And he says, AI will help us solve some of our biggest problems. We could even reach a point where resources are no longer the limiting factor for human progress, leading to an amazing new era of abundance. Again, we've talked a lot about radical abundance, sustainable superabundance. So that abundance is out there. We heard from it. And we're about to hear from a little bit later on from Elon. Now, the challenges of the frontier. AI is already starting to deliver real-world benefits, but to realize its immense promise, we have to navigate this critical period of development thoughtfully and carefully. So I'm going to just pause for 1 second. Elon is talking about no need for jobs in 10 to 20 years, no need to work in 10 to 20 years. Demis is talking about an end to disease in 10 to 20 years. The big challenge that you and I are working hard to address is this next 10 years.
Yeah.
This next 10 years of incredible disruption. Are you guys talking about this disruption on your show? I'm sure you are a little bit, right?
Well, do we touch on it? But I just want to say for our audience, if you haven't watched this before, or something when Joe and I have talked about, um, politicians aren't talking about this. They're not talking about the next 10 years. I'm not talking about local politicians or state or government. Nobody's talking about this, Joe. And we've consistently heard from whether it be Elon or anyone else that this is coming. There is no stopping it. And it's going to be, as you put it, a massive disruption for the next 10 years because of all the change. And we're not getting any movement or understanding. This is not a partisan statement. This is not partisan. Yeah,
No.
it's and I'm just saying,
Brian, we're weathermen.
yes, yes,
I would be unconscionable for us to see as clearly as we do that tsunami over the horizon, not say anything.
that's right.
And we're simply weathermen saying this is coming, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not saying it's good.
That's right. It is
Positives and
coming.
negatives. There's some real challenges. I'm not
That's
even
right.
certain. Well, why don't? If you ask me today, put a gun to my head, are we going to achieve superabundance? No, not in today's world. Not with today's mindset.
Yeah,
And that's why. So that's why. So again, ultimately, some may consider this hyperbole, but again, along with the anthropic statement, for me, this ranks right up there with the most important communiques of all time, all of human history, because he basically says exactly what we're talking about. Urgent action is needed to address risks that might arise as we get closer to AGI. He says he believes in the power of human ingenuity and creativity to solve any problems. He goes on, I'm confident that mitigating the technical risks related to AI is a challenge we can effectively address, but only if we give ourselves the time and space to give this next critical step right. Currently, as a field and as a wider society, we're not doing that, right? So
yep,
you and I are here screaming from the mountaintops, ladies and gentlemen, pay attention, pay attention, pay attention, right? And we only have a few years now,
yep.
a few years to address this. He goes, at the moment, we're locked in an extremely intense, multi-layered commercial and geopolitical race. Situational awareness. We have the U.S. and China and
Yep,
locked in battle,
yep.
and you have trillion-dollar companies locked in battle in the free enterprise system. Who's in charge? Brian, who's in charge?
We are leaderless in this, and I
Yes.
just want to
Until Brian, until they like you and me, president of the world.
Oh well,
And so,
well.
go ahead.
Let's also point out that if you didn't watch our last show on this last Monday, we also talked about some of the inherent risks of where we're at right now and the different leaders of AI. And this is from Elon Musk wanting to come together and talking about the necessity to come together and talk through these things because once again we're not going to get it from the top in the government because they just don't have the expertise there. So I just want to put that little plug in for everybody. If you didn't see the show on Monday, go back and watch it, and we dive deep into that. So sorry about that,
In
Joe.
fact,
I
and
just
that's
thought it made
what's
sense.
interesting. That's the reason we're reading from Demis's, because I think we're beginning to see the global societal response. The UN will talk next time a little bit about the UN conference that was recently held. We're beginning to see that when we talked last time about President Xi's comments in the Shanghai conference. But he basically says, while these competitive dynamics fuel rapid progress and accelerate the incredible upsides, advances on the frontier are pacing our understanding of technology. Remember our graph, right?
Mm-hmm.
Exponential versus linear.
Yep.
The gap is growing wider and wider. So nobody in the world knows for sure what's going to happen from here. And even the experts disagree. So look, we're calling attention to the tsunami coming our way, and we're all saying, let's get ready for it. So he proposes a framework. I'm not going to go too much into the framework because I think the important point here is that he's calling for the framework. And he does call on the U.S. He says the U.S. is well positioned, given its economic and technical standing, to take the first step in developing such a framework. And he argues that they should set a standards body. So again, we're moving in the right direction. Again, for our purpose, we're not going to go into the detail. You can go on our website and find that out. But he thinks the U.S. effort could provide a strong starting point for creating shared international standards for AI, which is, it's got to be international. In closing, he says the future is not yet written. AGI has the potential to be the ultimate tool for advancing science and medicine and drive enormous productivity gains and economic growth. But in order to achieve this, we need to get the technical foundations right by coordinating around a shared global framework using the most rigorous scientific methods and bringing the best minds together to work on the challenge we face. So ultimately, in closing, he says, resolving these questions obviously can and should not be left to the technologists alone. Really, in all honesty, I think, Brian, you and I need to be involved because the technologists, they're genius in some areas, but they're not necessarily day-to-day practitioners and certainly don't have any real experience in even local politics.
Yeah.
And so he says it requires every part of society to come together, every part of society. Well, we talk about 8.3 billion co-creators of the universe. Every human being needs to get involved and come together to help define the new chapter. We need to bring humanity together as never before. And in his last paragraph, he says, there's both huge excitement and uncertainty around AI, and both are warranted. But the future is not yet written. We must use this precious window before AG arrives to shape the technology for the benefit of all humanity. What we collectively do now will determine how the next phase of civilization unfolds. By safely stewarding AGI into the world, we can enter a new golden age of scientific discovery and progress and usher in a brighter future of incredible human flourishing. And what we need for that is our Renaissance mindset.
There you go. There you go. Exactly what we talked about in the last one.
and so, again, you can see why I like them. It's a short article, right to the point. He has a solution now. And I think increasingly we're going to see the global society beginning to talk about. There's some good movies out we'll talk about. We'll talk about the political conversation. We know that New York State just came up with the banning data centers. We ultimately, apparently the rationale she gave was profoundly flawed. And we'll talk some more about that. But so the stage is set. Demis Hassabis is saying, Brian Mistro, thank you so much for creating this program, The Hinge of History, because that's exactly where we are. And we have Emmett Mustak, we've talked about, has a book called The Last Economy. He says we have 1,000 days. He said that 250 days ago. So we're down to 750. So the time frame is short. And again, Demis Hassabis had been more relaxed about when AGI arrives. But ultimately now he's thinking 2029 to 2031. And remember our last program where we talked about our scenarios, right? It's not just AGI. There's a $7.6 trillion in investment creating that AGI. It's not just AGI, it's quantum computing.
That's right.
Quantum computing is going to be accelerate. And then finally, our foray into space, where ultimately the data centers, nobody's going to worry about regulation data centers up there. So that's where, in fact, this might be a good moment to share our video for today, because I want to close this with kind of because the reason we're going to tee up some of the next shows where we talk about regulation more fully, with the UN regulation, about the politics, the politics, really the noise surrounding AI. I think our democratic society today, the quality of the conversations is, and that's the whole reason for all of our shows, Brian, right?
That's right.
Our whole goal is to talk with interesting people, put forward the best perspective on how they understand the world. And that's what we're trying to do. And that's what you're trying to do with the other shows. I think it's kind of interesting because anything that's the old politics, anything that's not really talking about human abundance and human survival. The last thing I should mention is, there's huge existential risks associated with all this as well. So it's not just achieving abundance, but it's overcoming the existential threats to humanity as well. Because if this extraordinary technology is used for the wrong things, it can have a deleterious effect. And even some are concerned that AI decided, we're much smarter than you guys. We don't need.
Yeah, we don't need you anymore. I watched a movie about that.
Let's hear from Elon. I think this. I like this quote a lot.
Okay, let's do it.
The greatest irony in history may be that capitalism ends up creating a world where nobody has to work.
But then, as you pointed out, the irony is that the ultimate capitalist thing of AI and robotics enabling prosperity for all, an abundance of goods and services, actually the capitalist implementation of AI and robotics, assuming it goes down the good path, is actually what results in the communist utopia. Because fate is an irony maximizer.
Right, and an actual socialism of maximum abundance, of high income people.
Universal high income.
Yeah.
Like the problem with communism is this universal low income. It's not that everyone gets elevated, it's that everyone gets oppressed, except for a very small minority of politicians who live lives of luxury. That's what's happening every time it's been done.
Yeah.
But then the actual communist utopia, if everyone gets anything they want, will be achieved. If it is achieved, it will be achieved via capitalism, because fate is an irony maximizer.
I feel like we should probably end it on that. Is there anything else?
The most ironic outcome is the most likely, especially if entertaining.
Well, he said it. I do find it kind of that interesting analogy of communism. So anytime you say communism, immediately, folks are going to knee jerk, and especially for what I do in politics, that's the no word. But what he was talking about is that in communism, it brings everybody down except for a few elites. Okay, and I would argue, quite frankly, that that's because true communism has never been practiced. It's funky communism, but that's another discussion. However, what he's talking about is this type of communism instead, and I'm putting this in quotes, brings everybody up. And,
okay, okay. So I would define this a little differently.
Okay.
And so I mean, you're right. He talks about the irony, right?
Yeah.
I love for me, I think life's very ironic.
Yeah. Yeah.
And ultimately, the irony is capitalism will deliver really everybody receiving according to the needs and wants. So the initial Marxist philosophy, everybody should receive according to their needs and wants. And capitalism will have delivered that. It's sort of ironic, but basically, as you said, communism, everybody's in the same plane because it's universal low income. What we're talking about here is universal high income.
That's right.
And so the free enterprise capitalist system is going to deliver universal high income. Now, the reason I wanted to play this is because I want to get back to our concept of the infinite economy. And the article that talks about classical economics, be it neoliberal or Marxism, both start with the fundamental thinking of scarcity.
Yeah.
And ultimately, we live in a world of scarcity, and economics is the study of the distribution of scarce resources. And the free enterprise system has a way to distribute those resources, and Marxism and communism have a way to distribute those resources. The beauty of the infinite economy is we blow past both. So as we tee up our political conversations, everybody's wrong-headed. Forget it. There's one challenge. Get along.
That's right.
Get along. Well, what's interesting to me, a lot of the pundits and the futurists talk about this. They huge distrust in the mechanisms of power. And I guess I've always been a 3/4 full kind of guy, but I still am hopeful that humanity can come together and say, wait a second, wow, everything I've learned, as we said yesterday, for the last 71 years, throw it out the window.
Yeah.
Throw it out the window. We said this last Monday. Throw it out the window. Everything you learned, throw it out the windows. At the traditional economics, take that. Where's it? Here's my book. let's assume this is an economic tax. Throw it away. Throw it away. This is all based on scarcity, and the distribution of scarcity. The resources are no longer scarce. There's one thing, take to the bank, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry to get so excited. One thing to take to the bank is we now live in a world of abundance. And we can talk today about the fact that we produce enough food for everybody, but it's poorly distributed. And I understand that, and I completely agree with that viewpoint. But now let's assume we produce 10 widgets of food. We're going to be producing 1 million widgets of food. Now, you can't even screw that up. No matter how you distribute it, you can't screw it up. In fact, Elon said, just wish for what you want. In fact, in this essay, I didn't realize he said it in this interview. He also talks about the end of money. The end of money. We'll talk more about that next time. I don't think that's by 2036. And look, I would add another 5 to 10 years to all these predictions. But by 2050, I'll make another statement that I completely believe. If we manage to keep civilization intact, that's a huge if.
Yeah. Without
any huge disruption, everyone alive in the year 2050 will live better, far better than the billionaires of today. Far better, no doubt in my mind. That's why I'm so excited about where we are today. But we're also living the most dangerous time in human history. And we're playing with fire, big time fire with AI. So rather than these idiots, booing, Eric Schmidt at the graduation ceremony, it's like booing Al Gore on climate change. The guy no one's working harder to make AI work for humanity. Learn about it. Let's have a serious-minded conversation. Mm-hmm. So No Bull Media is all about serious-minded conversation, sharing views in a respectful and intelligent manner. And that's the whole reason for the show. And I think in the Hinge of history, I'll last quote Maimonides, the Jewish philosopher at the beginning of the year zero, who said, imagine there's an equal amount of good and evil in the world, and your next action is going to tip the balance. Ladies and gentlemen, if we tip the balance, ladies and gentlemen, I'm confident we can take the Hinge of history forward, create this world of abundance. And I'm not looking for you to vote for me for president of the world just yet. But look, I think this is an important time to have a serious-minded conversation across the globe. And I think those conversations are beginning to happen.
Yeah, I think they should have happened a long time ago. The question is, I think and I know we're out of time here, so we need to shut this down. But let's hope that they have the right conversations and continue them with the right mindset, as you said, of us working together in cooperation internationally. And that's what can really make this super abundance. So thank you, everybody, for joining us today. We really appreciate it. As I mentioned earlier, I don't know if you're watching this from YouTube or if you're watching it on X or wherever, but make sure you subscribe to our channel. Just go to YouTube. It's at No Bull Media Group. Press the like button, subscribe. It's all free. You'll be able to watch this. You'll be able to see all the previous shows that Joe and I have done. You'll see the Restoring the American Dream. You'll see the Political Arena, Thursday Thoughts. We've just got a lot of stuff that we try to provide for you, and some of the stuff is very political. This show is not. It's intentionally. We try to keep it apolitical. But leave us a question. Joe and I will talk about it on air. If you want to make fun of Joe, we'll definitely talk about it on air.
Come on, please be my guest.
Thanks again for joining us, everybody. We hope you're enjoying this as much as we enjoy making it. We'll see you again this next Monday. Thank you.
You've been watching Joe Carvin's Hinge of History. The No Bull Media Group is available on all major social media platforms. Make sure to give us a follow where you can watch this show and many others.
A No Bull